Next on the tool tips agenda is going to be kind of an offset from pliers, which I haven't done yet, but I really think it deserves to be covered. A lot of wiring specialty tools are out there. I'm going to cover some of the automotive related ones today. That's one of those things where you look at it and you kind of go, oh, that's a weird set of pliers, what do I use it for? This is going to show you. So to start off with, you have a couple different things. You have cutters, sharp edge, don't push it down with your finger in there. These are a blue point set. They're a little rusty because I pretty much use these whenever I can, but they're really good quality. This is a multi-function tool. You have a cutter on the end and a couple crimper options, which we'll cover in a minute. You have a stripper. Yes, guys, don't tell your wife you're watching this video with strippers. This is a wire stripper though, so she might be okay with it. When you look at wire strippers, you have a couple little functions to them. You have a little bit of a plier tip here for maneuvering connectors, so if you want to go ahead and say bend that back kind of straight, you can see it's kind of twisted, and okay, well, you can grab it and straighten it out a little bit, maybe make it fit what you need to do. So there's your strippers. These are linesman pliers, very commonly used in the heavy household, and those guys who go up on the poles 50 feet in the air with the helicopters and all that stuff world. You have a pair of pliers down here in the throat of the plier. You have a gripping surface here and a cutting surface, which makes it easy to go ahead, reach in, grab what you need, twist. These are great for if you need to twist two wires together or something like that. Also good to easily cut stuff. You can get it down in the throat. I'll use this one as an example. Get it down in the throat and just snip. These I like for a lot of electrical work because you can offset them and cut them, or you have that standard amount or your offset, so you can cut it wherever you want, or you need to cut everything down to the same length for some reason. You just need to snip off that inch because you stripped your wire and you didn't put your connector on right away, and the wires are all frayed, or the wire's a little more corroded than you thought and you didn't cut out enough. Snip. There's an extra 1/4 inch gone, ready to strip again. These are another version of a stripper. This is a auto stripper. I'm not a big fan of these, but I used them plenty. You go ahead, you take the wire, you put it in, and you squeeze. It automatically strips the wire for you. So in this case, I have to pull this little bit off. As you can see, it took no effort, and there's a decently stripped wire. It could use some adjustment. Did a little damage there to the actual copper, but not a problem. You have a couple things to concern here with. Is right here you have a plus or minus knob that's going to adjust the pressure on these jaws when they close. Minus is thicker wire, plus is thinner wire. Then down a little further you have your different crimp functions. That looks pretty legible. So this is wire cutter. Obviously that's a cutter area. You have your insulated crimper section. This will cover your red, your blue, and yellow connectors in this case. And then you have a bunch of non-insulated terminals. Non-insulated terminals, you don't get much in the automotive industry, but they are there. That will be one you can go into a little bit later. Other than right here, we'll cover is for your 4 gauge or so, 8 gauge, 4 gauge and 4 gauge and 8 gauge really. 6 gauge will go to battery terminal connectors you could use with this style set up there. So you can easily see the profile with my finger behind it, and just in case, there's another option. Now we're going to cover the normal stripper next. This one happens to have this fancy locking device, which is nice because these jaws are very, very sharp when they're brand new. So they will cut you. They will cut you pretty bad. So you have a couple different options here. First thing it says cut copper only. They are sharp. They will not cut through steel wire. When you cut through steel wire, you're going to wind up dulling them out, and they're not going to cut any kind of copper. when you look at it, you have a couple different functions, 1032 and your 832. These are usually included. They're more for the home electrical setup, where you have screws that will hold a wire in place, and that's for checking the thread pitch of the screw you're using if you need to replace them. You won't use that much in automotive. But now you have your cutter at the back, nice sharp edge, cutters at the back, and your different gauges the whole way throughout. Gauge is the diameter of a wire. To make it easy, just think of it as diameter. Over here is AWG, average wire gauge. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure it stands for average wire gauge. 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 14, 16, 18, and 20 gauge. All included in here. Their corresponding metric wire sizes are, again, metric does it easier, in millimeters. 2.6, 2.0, 1.6, 1.3, 1, and 0.80. You're not going to use the millimeter function much unless you're overseas. You're usually going to use the average wire gauge. So you can go ahead and take your wire, and this appears like it might be a 10 gauge, so we're going to put it in the 10 gauge hole. Well, first we're going to cut that end off, because you know we want a fresh strip on here. Put in that 10 gauge hole and pull, and it comes out. Now you have your little piece of insulation, and you have your piece of wire. It's as simple as it is. When you push down, sharp jaws, go ahead and put little cuts into the wire. Those little cuts are what allows the casing, which I didn't cut that one enough, to split off. Same principle works for these auto strippers too. The last thing we're going to cover is these big ol' wiring pliers here. You have obviously your cutter on the end and your couple different options for non-insulated terminals. Key is non-insulated. This one here is for heavy copper, and this one here you will not use. So the one towards the back is a heavy copper terminal. They work pretty good. Long story short, you just put your connector in, spread it out, put your connector in, and then you crunch it down. A lot of the time, this is one of those improper use of tools, things that will save your strength when you're doing a lot of these, because you really should crimp it all by hand, but we're not all that strong. So you can set it on a nice solid surface with your terminal in there. Remember, this isn't insulated, so it's the wrong one. I'm just using it as an example. And you can smack on the end here with a hammer to get a good solid crimp. I would not do that with a couple $100 set of professional pliers, you know, or anything like that. But these cheap ones, I don't remember where I got them. Probably from somewhere like Home Depot or something. No, they'll work great for something like that. They're nice and easy to replace.